Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to be solving your exercises, the ones that you had throughout the week. So let's start with this one. This is the first one that you had. Here you can see the ladder basically that shows us how to convert things from meters to decimeters to centimeters to millimeters. And if you don't remember, if we're going more than one step down or up, we see how many steps we're going up or down. And we're multiplying or dividing depending on if we're going down or up based on how many steps we go up or down. So if I go up by 3 steps, that means I divide by 100. If I go down by 3 steps, I multiply by 100. So let's get started. Here we have 0.25 meters, and we want to turn that into decimeters. So that's one step down. So I would multiply this by 10. And I would get 2.5. Next up, we have 2.5 centimeters into meters. That's 2 steps up, so divide this by 100, and I would get 0.025. Actually, you know what? We're going to write the rest of these so that it's a little bit easier. 10 decimeters into meters means I need to divide this by 10, so I'm just going to go 1. Next up, we have 15 meters into centimeters. That's 2 steps down, so multiply this by 100, and I get 1,500. From meters to millimeters, that's times 1,000. So we would multiply this by 1,000, and we would get 1,800. Next, from millimeters to centimeters is 1 step up, so divide this by 10, and you get 850. From decimeters into millimeters, that's 2 steps down, so multiply this by 100, you get 1,300. Here, this is probably a mistake because it has no unit of measurement, so we're going to ignore that. Next up, we have here, this exercise asks us to find the perimeter. This is kind of like the kind of exercise that we did where we want to find the perimeter, but each side is given in different units of measurement. So here, for example, it's given in centimeters. This is in decimeters, and here it's meters and centimeters. So I'm going to convert all of them into the smallest one of these, so that would be centimeters. So 300 decimeters into centimeters would be 300 centimeters. Actually, yeah, let's write that again because it does not look good. So 300 centimeters. And then 4 meters and 20 centimeters. 4 meters is 400 centimeters, plus the 20 that we already have would give me 420 centimeters. And if I add all of this up, I'm going to get 1,060 centimeters. Next up, we have centimeters, decimeters, decimeters, millimeters, decimeters. Now we have, the smallest one here is millimeters, yes, but we have a lot of decimeters. So if I wanted to convert all of these into millimeters, that would mean I would have to do 4 conversions, whereas because here I have 3 decimeters, I can just convert these two, so the centimeters and the millimeters, I can convert them into decimeters and be done with that. So to go from millimeters to decimeters, that would be to divide by 100. So I would get 43 decimeters out of this, and I'd have to divide this by 10, so I would get 50.2. Now, if you converted them into a different unit of measurement, let's say you chose to convert them into centimeters or millimeters, we're going to get different answers. But they're going to look the same. It's just that they're going to have their decimal point at a different place. So we have 50.2 plus 32 plus 58 plus 43 plus 58. So 32 and 58 make 90, and 43 makes 133, and 58 makes 100 and, well, actually I need to write that. I need to write all of that down, sorry. 32 and 58 and 43 and 58 and 50.2. And all of this is decimeters. Okay, so 32 and 58 makes 90. 90 and 43 makes 133. 133 plus 58 makes 191. And this plus this. If you don't remember how to do this, I pretend that a decimal point is here, and then I place one decimal point beneath the other, and I do that vertically. Or we can just do this in our mind, and we would get 241.2 decimeters. Next up, 1.2 meters plus 0.8 meters. So here we got to turn both of these into centimeters and then add them. So 1.2 meters to centimeters would be 120, and 0.8 meters into centimeters would be 80, and then if we add, we would get 200 centimeters. Next up, 0.5 kilometers plus 1.7 kilometers, and we have to turn these into meters before we add them. So what that means is that we have to multiply these numbers by 1,000. So we would get 500 and 1,500, 700. And I would add these and get 2,200. There we go. Centimeters, and I have to turn these into millimeters, so I have to multiply these numbers by 10. And I would get 100, and I would also get 270. If I add these, I would get 370. Great. Let's move on. Okay. Here we want to figure out if 0.7 kilometers is the same distance as 700 meters. Yes, because 0.7 kilometers is equal to 0.7 times 1,000 meters, which is equal to 700 meters. And then we have, is 1.3 meters equal to 1,300 centimeters? And the answer would be no, because 1.3 meters is equal to 1.3 times 100 centimeters, which is equal to 130 centimeters. So no, it should be 130, not 1,300. Next up, we want to turn each of these into the unit of measurement that is required. So 2.3 meters into kilometers means I have to divide this by 1,000. And what I would get is 0.0023. Here I would get, from kilometers to meters, means I multiply this by 1,000. So I would get 8,420. Well, actually, since I'm putting in 3 zeros there, that would make it 8,425,000 meters. Next up, we're going from kilometers to meters, so I'm multiplying this by 1,000, and I get 240. From meters to kilometers, I divide, so I get 0.09145. From meters to kilometers, so I'm dividing this by 1,000, and I get 0.011. From meters to kilometers, so again I divide this, and I get 1.367. From kilometers to meters, so I multiply this by 1,000, and I get 6,020. And that's that. Let's move on to, actually, let's close this because it takes up too much room. And if you want to find if you missed the answers to any of these, just go back and pause the video at the correct moment to see the answers. So here, we have a square that has a side of 35 centimeters. That means that all of its sides are 35 centimeters. So then it asks what the perimeter is. Since all of its sides are 35 centimeters, that would mean I would have to do 35 plus 35 plus 35 plus 35, or, and these are centimeters, obviously, or 35 times 4 centimeters, which would give me 140 centimeters. Next up, we have well, this is a rectangle, yeah, that has a perimeter of 64 meters. One of its sides is 12. What is its other side? So, yeah, the width is 12, so that means that its big side is 12. So, actually, no. Well, we'll figure it out. One of its sides is 12. So, what does this mean? 12 plus 12 makes 24, right? So, whatever the other side is, if I add it to itself and then I add it to this, I should get 64. So what do I need to add to 24 to get 64? Well, I need to add 40. But be careful because this is the double of the side. Because remember, I need to add it to itself before adding it to this. So if I wanted to cut this in half, what is the half of 40? Because the sides also need to be equal. That would be 20. So each side is 20 meters. So that's actually not the width. It's the small side. So this should say the height, actually. So 20 meters. And if you want to make sure that that's true, just think: if this is 20 and 20 and 12 and 12, then if I add all those up, are they going to make 64? Yeah, they are. Next up, this triangle has sides of 9.5 centimeters, 8 centimeters, and 7.8 centimeters. What is its perimeter? So basically, we just need to add all of these numbers up. We do 9.5 plus 8 plus 7.8. Let's write these vertically. 9.5, 8 is going to go here, and 7.8 is going to go here. 5 and 8 would give me 13, so I'd write 3 and I'd carry 1. 1 and 9 makes 10, and 8 makes 18, and 7 makes 25. So my answer should be 25.3 centimeters, because don't forget that all of these are centimeters. Okay, so here we have, again, a rectangle that has its width being 42 meters, so this side is 42. and its height is 2/3 of that, and it wants to know the area and the perimeter of this rectangle. So actually, let's write this like this. So 42. What is it? Meters. Okay, good. Now, what is 2/3 of 42? Let's find 2/3 of 42. How would we do 2/3 of 42? We would do 2/3 times 42, which would give me 84/3. And if I do that division, I would get 28. So this side, the small side, is 28 meters. And I want to find its perimeter and its area. Well, its perimeter, it's going to be 42 plus 42 plus 28 plus 28. 42 and 42 makes 84, plus 28 and 28 makes 56. And if I add these two together, I'm going to get 140. So the perimeter, I'm going to say the perimeter is 140 meters. Pay attention here. The area, for the area, I'm going to have to multiply the small side with the big side. So I'm going to have to do 28 meters times 42 meters. And remember what we said on the video on Tuesday, when we multiply units of measurement that are the same, so meters with meters, we get square that meter. So I'm going to have to do 28 times 42. Okay, so we're going to have to do that vertically. Just a second. 28 by 42. The first line is going to be 56. 0 beneath the ones. And then the second line is going to be 112. So 6 here, 7 here, 1, 1. So my answer should be 1,176 square meters. Okay, come on. Okay, there we go. 1,176 square meters. Just write M. And there's my answer. Perfect. I'm going to close this now. Okay, next up, we want conversions. So we want to turn all of these into centimeters. So 20 centimeters, 5 kilometers, and so on. So to go from meters to centimeters, I multiply by 100 and I get 2,000 centimeters. To go from kilometers to centimeters, I multiply by 5 steps down, so that's 5, 0. I'm going to add 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that would make this 500,000. Then to go from meters to centimeters, that's 2 steps down. So I multiply this by 100 and I get 6 centimeters. And I forgot to write centimeters here. Excellent. To go from decimeters to centimeters, I go 1 step down. So that's 80 centimeters. Yeah. To go from meters to centimeters, I multiply by 100, so I get 79 centimeters. From decimeters to centimeters, I multiply by 10, so 43 centimeters. Now we want to turn all of these into millimeters. So Here I'll multiply by 1,000 because 3 steps down, so 4,000 millimeters. Then from here to from decimeters to millimeters, that's 2 steps down, so 7,600 millimeters. Then that's 1 step down, so 530 millimeters. Come on. Then we're going 3 steps down, so we're multiplying by 1,000, making this 9,900 millimeters. Then we're going 2 steps down, so we're multiplying by 100, so we're getting 3,026 millimeters. And then we're going 1 step down, so 12 millimeters. Next up, I'm going to need to put these lengths in order. To do that, I'm going to need to convert them into the same unit of measurement. So again, I've told you we try to make it into the smallest possible because that's the easiest. Although here I could avoid that because I have 2 centimeters. Anyway, let's just turn them all into millimeters. We have what? 3,000 meters is 3 meters is 3,000 millimeters. Actually, I'm going to use red. And we're going to make this a little smaller. And bold. So that you can tell it apart from the rest. 200 centimeters is 2,000 millimeters. 40 decimeters is 4,000 millimeters. 350 centimeters is 3,500 millimeters. And the last one is already in millimeters. So let's put all of this in order. I'm going to rewrite it here. Okay, so this is going to be the first one. This is the biggest one. Oh, it actually wants them in order, specifically in order from smallest to greatest. So this is the smallest one. Should go here. Then the next smallest one is already in place, 3,000. Then we have 3,500. And I have made a mistake in writing meters. It should be millimeters. Sorry about that. And there you go. That's all of them. If you wanted to rewrite them back in their original state as they were here, that's fine, but it's not necessary really. Next up, we have the Eiffel Tower. Oh, the little Eiffel Tower. So that's 26 meters, much smaller than the real one. So what is that in decimeters and centimeters? So 26 meters into centimeters is 260 because I multiply by 10. And in centimeters, it's 2,600 because I multiply by 100. And that's that for that exercise. Let's move on to the next one. Sorry about that. There was a little problem with the background in that exercise. I had to fix it for a second. Okay, so let's continue. So we have the distance between 2 towns being 50 kilometers, and it asks how many meters that is. So I'd have to multiply this by 1,000, and I would get 50,000 meters. Next up, we have the length of a fish being 4 decimeters, and we want to know that length in centimeters and millimeters. So I'd have to multiply the number by 10 and get 40 for decimeters, and by 100 to get 400 in millimeters. Here you have to fill in your own height. I mean, we each have to fill in a different height. Okay, my height is 183 meters. And then we have to turn this into decimeters, centimeters, millimeters. So I just have to multiply the number by 10, and I'd get 18.3. Then I'd get 183, and then I'd get 1,830. Here it's meters. No, sorry, not meters, decimeters. Here it's centimeters, and here it's millimeters. There we go. Here we have 50 kilometers in 2 meters. So again, I multiply this by 1,000 and get 50,000 meters. And next we want it in decimeters, so just add another 0 and get 500,000 decimeters. Next up, we have the depth of the Atlantic Ocean at 9,219. Wait, what? Sorry, 9 point. That didn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so yeah, 9.219 kilometers, and I have to multiply this by 1,000 to turn it into meters. So we get 9,219 meters, then 92,190. Wait, no, centimeters. Okay, that's a little confusing because it has centimeters first. You got to be careful to notice that. I almost fell for that myself. So the decimeters are here, centimeters are here. So 921,900 centimeters. That was tricky. Okay, so there goes that exercise as well. Next up, we have just conversions again. Okay, so here goes. 2 meters into decimeters, so multiply by 10, you get 20. Then 4 meters into centimeters, multiply by 100, so you get 400. Meters into millimeters, so multiply by 1,000, you get 5,000. Decimeters into centimeters, so you multiply by 10, you get 50. From decimeters to millimeters, you multiply by 100, so you get 500. From centimeters to millimeters, you multiply by 10. Wait. Yeah. You multiply by 10, so you get 120. Then from meters to decimeters, you multiply by 10, so you get 8. From meters to decimeters, again, you multiply by 10, so you get 25. From meters to centimeters, you multiply by 100, so you get 420. From meters to millimeters, you multiply by 1,000, so you get 1,500. From decimeters to centimeters, you multiply by 10, so you get 35. From decimeters to millimeters, you multiply by 100 and you get 480. From centimeters to millimeters, you multiply by 10, so you get 24. From meters to centimeters, you multiply by 100, so you get 50. Yeah, sorry. From kilometers to meters, you multiply by 1,000, so you get 2,000. Here, these are all from kilometers to meters, so we're going to multiply each of these numbers by 1,000. Here we're going to get 2,500. Here we're going to get 1,250. Here we're going to get 3,575. Here we're going to get 500. Here we're going to get 25. Here we're going to get 750. Okay, so now I have to write each of these numbers in all of their forms. So meters, decimeters, centimeters, millimeters. So let's go. We start off with 5 meters, which is 50 centimeters, 500, sorry, it's 50 decimeters, 500 centimeters, and 5,000 millimeters. Next up, we have 38 decimeters, which is 3.8 decimeters, and 380 centimeters, and 3,800 millimeters. Next up, we have 800 centimeters, which is 8 meters, 80 decimeters, and 8,000 millimeters. Next up, we have 10,000 millimeters, which is 10 meters, or 100 decimeters, or 1,000 centimeters. Next, we want to turn these lengths into fraction form first, and then into the actual length. So this is basically like saying, okay, so 3 decimeters is 3 divided by 10 meters. So 4 meters is, we want to turn it into centimeters, so it's 4 times 10. I'm going to need to take, I'm going to need to use smaller numbers for this. Wait, no. Like so. So 400, did I write 10? That was a mistake, sorry. So yeah, we're gonna need to make them even smaller actually. Like that. Okay, so it's 400 centimeters. And now here we have 4 centimeters being just 4. Since we're not changing, it stayed centimeters, so just leave it as it is. 7 decimeters is how many meters? Well, we'd say 7 tenths, because you have to do 7 divided by 10, which is 0.7. 2 millimeters is how many centimeters? That would be 2 tenths, because you have to do 2 divided by 10. And that is 0.2. 36 millimeters is how many meters? That would be 36 thousandths, because I have to do 36 divided by 1,000. And that would give me 0.036. Next up, we want to write these numbers in such a way that each number does not have more than 1 digit. So 3.6 meters. Well, this would be 3 meters. Now we can make them a little bigger again. We want there to be 1 digit on each line. Okay, so we can't just write 36 decimeters. No, it's 3 meters and 6 decimeters. Here, this is 4 decimeters, 3 centimeters and 2 millimeters. Here we have 6 centimeters and 2 millimeters. And there you go. That's this exercise. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so here we want the perimeter of each of the shapes, and we want to find which of them have the exact same perimeter. So here we have a rectangle that has one small side of 3 and one big side of 8. So to find its perimeter, I'm going to have to do 8 plus 8 plus 3 plus 3. 8 plus 8 makes 16, plus 3 makes 19, plus 3 makes 22. 22 what? Centimeters, because it's currently in centimeters. Oh, they're all centimeters. So. Next up, we have a square that has a side of 9. So that's 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9, or 4 times 9, give me 36 centimeters. Here we have 8 plus 8 plus 8, which would give me 24 centimeters. And here we have 6 plus 9 plus 6 plus 9. So 6 and 6 makes 12. 9 and 9 makes 18. So that would be 30 centimeters, right? Did I make a mistake? No. Are any of them, do any of them have the same perimeter? No. None have the same perimeter. Next up, okay, so we have the width of a rectangle being half of its length. Okay, so the small side is going to be the half of the big side. So the big side is 20, and we want to find what the perimeter and what the area are. So if this side is 20, then this side, which is the half, is going to be 10, because that's the half of 20. And they're both in meters. So what's the perimeter going to be? 20 plus 20 plus 10 plus 10. That's going to give me 60. So I'm going to write perimeter equals 60 meters. Next up, we have the area. To find the area, I'm going to need to multiply one big side with one small side. So the area is going to be 10 meters times 20 meters. 10 times 20 is going to give me 200. 200 what? 200 square meters. So there you go. Next up, we want to find the area of this shape. So how are we going to do that? Well, we could find the area of this rectangle, and then the square, and then the triangle, and then add them. Or, to make our life a little bit easier, we could find the area of the big rectangle, knowing that this top side is a total length of 14, since it's this plus this. So the area of the big rectangle, this whole thing, is going to be 4 times 14. 4 centimeters times 14 centimeters. And that is going to give me a total of 56 square centimeters. Now, the area of the triangle is going to be 5 times, we actually don't need this 6. because to find the area of the this is a trap. You shouldn't do 5 times 6. If you did 5 times 6, that's actually a trap. Because what you need to do is multiply the two smallest sides. So this side and this side. And this side, since this is a square, this right here is a square, we know that this side is in fact 4 centimeters, the same as the top. So you'd have to do 5 times 4 would make 20 and take the half of that. So 5 centimeters times 4 centimeters, and then whatever you find, take the half of that. So divide this by 2. 5 times 4 gives me 20, and I have to divide this by 2 square centimeters. So that would give me 10 square centimeters. And in total, the big rectangle plus the triangle gives me a total of 66 square centimeters. And there you go. That's it. Let's move on to the last one. Okay. Yeah. Okay, need another second to fix that. But now we're ready. So let's finish this one off. 35 meters into centimeters means I need to multiply by 100. So 3,500. Kilometers into meters means I need to multiply by 1,000, so 8,000. 524 centimeters into meters means I need to divide by 100, so 5.24. Decimeters into millimeters means I need to multiply by 100, so 3,500. Millimeters into meters means I need to divide by 1,000, so 0.65. Meters into kilometers means I need to divide by 1,000, so 3.98. Here we have square centimeters. So 5 square centimeters is equal to, okay, so this one, I'm going to be honest, it slipped by me. I didn't notice that you had to convert squares in Mr. Costas's exercise. So, okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about how to do that. We're also gonna talk about this, what extrema is. Okay, so first the easy stuff out of the way. Extrema is, and that's actually the word for it in English too, extrema. There's no foreign word for it. Some of you might think it's acre. An acre is actually more than extrema. So 1 extrema is 1,000 square meters. So 8 extremata is going to be 8,000 square meters. So let's get this right out of the way. Then we have 28,500 square meters into extrema. So that means we need to divide this by 1,000. So we get 28.5. Now, how do we convert square meters and square centimeters into, like we've been doing up until now? Well, there's a big difference, and see, the difference is that, for example, here, instead of multiplying by 10 that I normally would, to go from meters to decimeters, I'm going to multiply with a number that has twice as many zeros as I normally would. Okay, so that would be 100. So in this case, I would get 500. Here, I want to go from centimeters to meters, so that would mean I'd have to divide by 100. Because this is squares, I'm going to divide by, we're going to want 4 zeros, so that's 10,000. I'm going to divide by 10,000. I'm going to get 2.5. Next up, Squared, okay, so from decimeters to go to meters, normally I would divide by 10, but we want twice as many zeros, so that's 100. So we're going to get 12.5. Here we want to go from meters to centimeters, so normally we would multiply by 100, but we want twice as many zeros, so that's 10,000 times 7, which would give me 70,000 square centimeters. Okay, again, sorry about not telling you during the weekly videos how to do these. It just totally slipped by me, this specific exercise. My apologies. Okay, so this one. A square has a perimeter of 160 centimeters, and it asks how many meters each side is. Well, whatever its side is, if I multiply it by 4, I'm going to get 160 because that's how we find the perimeter of a square. So to find that, I would do 160 divided by 4, which would give me 40. So one side, say side equals 40 centimeters. Next up, it wants to know what the area is. So I would have to do 40 times 40 to find the area. So again, the area is 40 centimeters times 40 centimeters, which would give us 1,600 square centimeters. Next up, we want to fill up this board. So we want the number like this. We want it in its decimal form. We want it in its fraction form. And we want it as a whole number. So let's get going. This would be 5.8 meters. So that would make it 5810. Oh, sorry, this is the decimal. So 5.8 meters. Which in fraction form would be 58 over 10. The whole number, in order to make it whole, I would have to take this one step to the right, turn it into 58. So it would be decimeters. Yeah. Next up, 6.5 meters. So that's 6 meters and 5 decimeters. In fraction form, that would be 65 tenths. And to make it a whole number, I would again have to take it one step down, so 65 decimeters. We have 320 100ths of a meter, so that would be 3.2 meters. 3.2 meters. Next up, we have, actually no, this should be its other form. So 3 meters and 2 decimeters. Here is where we should have written it as 3.2 meters. And here we want to turn it into a whole number, so that would be 32 decimeters. Here we have 905 centimeters. So that would be, well, that would be 9,000, 90,000, wait, no, yeah, 90,500 over 100 meters. If we want to turn it specifically into meters, and all of these have to be meters, then yeah, it would have to be in, yeah, it would have to be like this, 90,500 over 100. Here we want its decimal, that would be 9.05 meters. And here we would have it as 9 meters and 5 centimeters. And there you go. That's how you solve all of them. That's how you solve all the exercises. So that'll be all for this week. I will see you guys again on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye.